These YouTube comments are mediocre. Alright. Hey everybody, it's your old pal King Waspinator, practicing social media distancing as you can see. So, a few nights ago I made a video about Dune 2020 and the faux controversy over it going woke. And I actually got a decent amount of comments here, so I'm going to read through some of them and I guess do a little bit of a back and forth, see what people have to say. Let's see, starting off with, I guess it's from most recent to last. First one up is from the Alpha Incel. Well, that's a promising name. I'm just going to say, from having looked through these a little bit already, Alpha Incel, if you're not self-aware and making a big pun, and you're actually like a genuine in some of the things you're saying here, whew, alright. I would just hope that someone who would like to actively choose the Alpha Incel as their screen name, like, knows what they're doing, but, you know, who knows, to each their own. But anyway, what he has to say is, sounds like it's gonna suck, and judging by the stills, it looks dull. I would say, judging from the sound of that, you've probably already had made up your mind about Dune before you even had watched my video. And it is possible it could be a little dull. I said that already about Villeneuve's movies. I mean, as much as I appreciate the quality and craft in them, they are a little sleepy at times. So just is what it is. So let's see. We got John Smith. All right, John Smith. I wonder how Pocahontas is doing. Is this Elizabeth Warren's boyfriend? Anyway, 434. Oh, it's a time tag to my video. Since you put it that way, maybe it might still be a decent movie, but I have a feeling they are gonna bash you in the head with over-the-top wokeness and say it wasn't made for you and call us bigots when the movie flops at the box office. That's possible. On the other hand, because of the whole pandemic thing, they have kind of a built-in excuse for everything flopping for the next couple of years. I'm still not entirely convinced Dune is actually going to be in theaters this year. It'd be nice if it does, fingers crossed, but don't cash checks on it yet, so to say. Anyway, I'm curious, what was at the 434 mark? Let's give a little listen. Some of King Waspinator's genius. What was I saying here?
Have a vague memory and legend because it's been gone for so long. To characters within Dune being white, black, Asian, whatever, means nothing to them in the way it means stuff to us. They're completely detached from our context. So on the surface, it shouldn't matter, but I'd be more impressed if they had done, you know, a more higher profile, important character to the series.
Okay, yeah, so that's just me saying that Dune's set like something like 15 to 20,000 years in the future in the very first book, let alone the other 5 to 7,000 years that pass over the course of the 6-book series. And yeah, to say that even if you have the gene pool of humans, you still have people that overall look like what we would call white people, or look like what we would call Arabs, or look like what we would call East Asians, or look like what we would call black people. They're so detached from whatever history that we currently have, they wouldn't necessarily think of themselves in those terms. They wouldn't still be hung up on stuff from way back when. It'd be akin to us saying that whether or not we still give a damn about what our ancestors that look the most like us from 10,000 years before the end of the last ice age, if we cared about what they were up to and whatever beefs they had. Even if there are any faint echoes of it remnant, no one really knows how to identify it properly. I would, just be the rational way of looking at it. It's okay, yeah. Supra 504 had commented that you guys crying about this are snowflakes. I'm not exactly sure what it was I was crying about in that video or this video. I find the controversy just a little kind of dumb. It's not that big of a character. My reply to him was, who's crying? I'm saying both sides of the argument are simultaneously wrong and right. That's not how crying works. You can do better. Alpha Incel comes back, replies to me, there is no both sides. The changes are unnecessary. Yes, the changes are unnecessary, but there are certainly multiple sides being taken. It's not like any hard line thing. This isn't like Star Wars. There's certainly more fervor on the right hand of fandom than there is fervor on the left hand of fandom. But there is certainly a wing of fandom that is all on board with oh yeah, this is great. Sure thing, change Leah Keenes. Okay. Also, Alpha Incel says to Super 504 that apparently he's like, yo, is that the best you got, apologist? Which, okay, I'm not... J. Danks. The source material is already diverse and multicultural. To alter it would be pointless and a failure of respecting Frank Herbert's progressive values. True. I totally agree with that sentence. However, movies are altered, and there's worse changes they could have made to this. Far worse changes they could have made to this. There's worse changes that can have been made to this that we won't even know about yet. God forbid we get the weirding modules back and they're still using the Sonic stuff. Remember how in the first Dune movie they made the whole edge of House Atreides be that they had this weird sonic weapon that they'd have a little throat mic and they'd be like, "Aja choo," and all that kind of shit? That wasn't in any of the Dune books, as far as I can tell. Maybe vaguely some of the weird weapons that were being used by the Tleilaxu and such in the very last two Dune books, but even then there was really nothing quite like that of like the sound of his name is a killing sound kind of shit. That wasn't a part of that. So as long as this movie doesn't do anything that bad, you got to consider the bar that we have set here, And as far as quote unquote bad things about this movie, I'm very accepting of the David Lynch Dune. I very much like it. It's a childhood favorite of mine. It's what got me to read the book Dune at a way too young of an age. Probably to start reading that stuff, because it certainly kind of has an effect on your psychology, I noticed, upon me and other people who read Dune at a young age. But, David Lynch's movie, crossed a lot of lines. In terms of how it portrayed some things that were, not at all appropriate to what Frank Herbert's vision was. Down to, as I've stated before, all the Fremen looking suspiciously more like bikers. And the magical powers taking Paul Muad'Dib's role as a prophesied being way too literally. And the sadomasochistic disease stuff going on with the Harkonnens. And, the list goes on. The first Dune is already, really, played around with the formula of Frank Herbert's books. So it's hard to say whether or not this is going to undermine Frank Herbert's progressive values. I'm not even sure, yes, it's kind of inappropriate to call Dune woke back in the 60s because people didn't use that kind of terminology. And I'm not even sure if progressive is really the right word. I will say that to people on the whole, like, oh, it's going woke and ruining things, and he's promoting a feminist message. Dune always had a really strong underlying feminist message in it. He was very heavy. Frank Herbert was very heavily influenced by his wife. It totally like destroyed him towards the end of his own life when she died before he did. He very much patterned the character of Jessica on her. She had a lot of input. And if you think about the kind of relationship that Jessica is portrayed to having had with the Duke Leto, and kind of, like, obviously she was giving him little bits of encouragement and supporting him and, helping him get better so that she can get better kind of stuff, how the Bene Gesserit operate. And as I've said before in my last video, like, the whole overarching storyline to the Dune series is this transformation of a patriarchal feudal society into a decentralized open society that's run largely by females and lots of central female authority figures. So to act like it's some big shock that Dune's going woke, they're probably not going to ever like get beyond just making the first damn Dune book into movies. We're lucky to get these two. The odds of getting Dune Messiah and Children of Dune just come with all manner of complications, especially because they've cast Jason Momoa to play Duncan Idaho. That's going to make those movies, like, weird. Getting on to God Emperor. As much as I would love to see someone attempt to make a God Emperor of Dune movie, because God Emperor of Dune really is the peak, the highlight of that entire series, has the most to say about the nature of power and politics and all other manner of things. But it's going to be so hard to translate. So, yeah, them jibbing things around a little bit in an adaptation of the first Dune novel to maybe emphasize some of these pro-female, pro-feminist themes in it, just so that people actually understand that it's there at all, because they're not likely to ever get all the way out to making Heretics of Dune and Chapter House Dune, and God forbid if they ever try to make that Frankenstein monstrosity of Dune 7 that was split into 2 books by his son and that damn ghostwriter Kevin Anderson. Anyway, enough of that rant. Let's go back on to the comments. Let's see. Dayrall at King Waspinator. So you preferred the less coherent version? Yes, it's a great piece of original media, but damn, is Air a bad film? Damn, is Air a bad film? It's hard to answer that if that didn't end so badly. Geez, talk about less coherent versions. It starts off giving me shit for liking the David Lynch movie, despite it being quote-unquote a less coherent version. And then you end off your comment like completely losing any coherence and but damn is air, A-I-R, air as in the air we breathe and get coronavirus from. But damn is Air a bad film. I've never seen Air. I'd assume is that like an edgy 90s reboot of Airplane or something? Air. I don't know. Haven't seen it. So I can't. Daryl, no. This comes from the Alpha Incel. I'm not sure whose side the Alpha Incel is on. No, he prefers the one that actually has substance instead of the inferior sequel that deserved to fail. Oh, they're talking about me talking about Blade Runner 2049. No, the first one's perfectly coherent. You have to think about what's going on. It's not spoon-fed to you, everything. There's a lot of stuff that kind of you have to be in the character's head. And whether or not you want or need the narration version of the movie, the theatrical version that has Harrison Ford talking over it, I guess the comments like that is probably why studios felt the need to have put that narration over it. I'll say again, Blade Runner 2049 was an excellent movie, like in terms of like science fiction themes and especially in questions of AI and just what is it to be alive and real and all that kind of stuff. Great stuff, great stuff. It shot wonderfully, looked great, well acted. Well, it's just paced a little slow. And there's these weird kind of chaotic elements that were there in the very original Blade Runner. And almost entirely in large in large part on the shoulders of Rutger Hauer's performance as Roy Batty that you just can't replicate in Blade Runner 2049. I'm sorry, as good as Blade Runner 2049 is, it has nothing in it to compete with Roy Batty and Roy Batty's death scene on the roof. So, sorry. All right. David. House Atreides being black? Sure, why not? Gender swapping a father to a mother is a big deal. A female Liet requires changes in Chani, the Fremen, and the Empire. The anger isn't about the change, be the motivation for the change, and Dune isn't woke, it's progressive. I know, that all the terms suck for it, okay? Left wing, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so gender swapping a father to mother. It all depends on the character in question, okay? Liet Kynes, I don't really see it necessarily has to make too many terrible adjustments. The male Liet Kynes was the son of Pardot Kynes. This could just be the daughter of Pardot Kynes. And Chani being Stilgar's niece, all they have to do is instead of having Liet having been married to Stilgar's sister, they just have Liet married to Stilgar's brother, who could have been killed off in some previous whatever. Now Chani's, alone. Or they could even change it to have Chani be Stilgar's daughter, which is maybe a little bit more questionable, but I guess kind of fits the whole motif of like royalty and royalty being together, which might diminish a little bit of Chani's things. There are things like that to have to consider, yes. It's not a perfect thing, but as far as characters go, it's not the same as like flipping Leto and Jessica, their genders around, or however the hell that would work. So, an all-male Bene Gesserit. Well, obviously that really wouldn't work if they were doing that with their feminist agenda. Hollywood's dangerous feminist agenda. It's coming to get you. Take your children. Yeah. And the Alpha Incel with another helpful reply on that last one from David says, and Dune isn't woke, it's progressive. Same thing. Alright. So anyway, what's our last? From Jennifer Joyner. I'm a black woman, and other than you're not liking Arrival and Blade Runner 2049, I agree with what you said. Oh my God. I've got the black seal of approval. Do you know what that means, everybody? Oh my God! That's like 50 points. Shit. 5 more points, and I'll finally be able to say Nick.
Harder Cranberry Sauce is proud to present a King Waspinator joint. Yeah. Oh, baby, you got that booty, that big booty. Oh, how I love it. I love the booty. Michael Burnham. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm gonna grab it and stab it. Love it and fuck it. You heard that? It's right. I'm gonna tear the pants off all night, and then I'm gonna blast. I'm gonna blast Michael Burnham in her ass. Oh yeah. And when I bust a nut, it's gonna be in Michael Burnham's butt. Yeah. 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 I know you